Wow, I think that's it. Yeah, just like that. That was pretty easy. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you guys heard the news lately. It's a lot of stuff that happens in the news, unfortunately. But what we're going to share with you guys is the news about the Small Business Administration increasing loans for I think it's EIDL, up to $500,000. And for those of you guys who don't know, that's basically $500,000. So, Hank, question for you.
Yes.
What immediately comes to mind when you read a headline like this?
What immediately comes to my mind is that this is a phenomenal opportunity for a lot of small businesses that we have tried to help for 6 months or so, who continually run into roadblocks when they go the traditional route of trying to get resources to keep their businesses afloat.
That's true. That's good. That's true. The skeptic in me wants to know a few things, though.
Such as?
If our government is looking to, or government entities are looking to increase the loan value,
Mm-hmm.
and if you guys read the article, they're gonna have this take place starting April 6th,
Right, 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, immediately that comes to my mind is, so we're nowhere near where I thought we were as far as being over the pandemic.
I would look at it a little bit differently. I look at it from the perspective that for such a long period of time, there have been lids put on a lot of potential opportunities for businesses. And maybe some of the uncertainty also prevailed. However, if small businesses are truly the engine of economic prosperity, the PPP didn't necessarily benefit the small guy like the small guy thought it would, because I have a number of individual friends that were small business owners. And now, again, I don't know whether they are incorporated, they are LLCs, they are sole proprietor. I don't know the nomenclature, but I just know that they didn't qualify for one reason or another.
Mm.
And they had to cut back tremendously. So Leland, as I look at this, my mind goes to, if one of the criteria for dipping into these funds is that in the eyes of society, your business isn't legitimate unless it's an LLC or some type of business, a corporation, or what have you. They're still small business people. They're still hiring folk. So how do they cap into these resources? That's what's running through my mind.
That's true. I'm also wondering. That's a good question. How do they tap into the resources? Because when we talk about tapping into the resources, there's obviously going to be an application process, right? And I'm wondering, what are the requirements for that?
But the question is it a new application process? Because I think the article goes on to say that people who had already received a loan under the, I guess it was either this program or the PPP program, will be contacted automatically. Well, what about all of those individuals that didn't qualify?
Didn't qualify from the very beginning. Absolutely.
You know? So
now, yeah, they're missing out twice, right?
Well, absolutely. Before, to maybe get them back to broke. Okay. And so I think as I was looking at this, so again, the Small Business Administration is handling it. the question will be at the local level where you've got certain banking institutions that are working with SBA.
Mm-hmm.
Will they play hardball because they don't like the potential candidate that comes through the door
Yeah.
for a system?
Or as they like to say, they don't like the risk factors, right?
Yes.
They don't want to carry too much risk. I get it. Or yes, that's what they say. I don't know. I find it odd. So man, it's funny. So last night I was talking to some of my line brothers, and we have this investment group. And one of my line brothers was like, "Hey, is now a good time to get into XYZ company? It's like a real estate based company." And he was saying that basically on all the stocks that he's looking at on his list, that only one of them, that the primary stock that's doing well are real estate based stocks, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, look, honestly, what I would precaution is getting. And he also asked about purchasing real estate like right now, and I said honestly, I wouldn't suggest purchasing real estate right now. And I gave him the list of reasons, right? The moratorium, foreclosures, evictions, all being held, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once those things are open up, defaults open up. There's gonna be sheriff sales, right? Auctions, buying stuff at lower values, and killing the comps. But what's interesting is I told him, I said, look, it's gonna be hard to justify the United States or the CDC from a moral standpoint,
Hmm.
to open up evictions and foreclosures if X amount of Americans have lost their jobs and those jobs have not come back. A lot of times, if we think about just the job cycle in general,
Mm-hmm.
we normally have an uptick in jobs in the fourth quarter, primarily because of retail shopping
Right.
closer to Christmas. And then come quarter one of the following year, there's a decline in jobs because the Macy's of the world have cut their winter staff, right? Their holiday
Right.
staff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with the pandemic, so many of those are now almost extinct. So that part in the job cycle is gone. And here's what I'm getting at with the loans. You mentioned that small businesses are the backbone, right?
Yes.
And small businesses provide the most employment opportunities. I think this is the government's way in trying to spur more small businesses to hire more people to justify when the foreclosures take place.
I need to clarify something that I said. Naively, I mentioned, or not being thoughtful, I said small businesses. I think the term small business is a misnomer because a lot of companies that got PPP qualified as a small business, but they were getting millions of dollars under the PPP program, where one, they didn't need it. I think it was either some NBA, NFL team,
NFL.
or some
Tom Brady.
Well, not just Brady, but I mean, some so what we would consider big business was getting boatloads of PPP funding. Okay. And the little guy who's got a barber shop or a beauty parlor who didn't go through the steps of getting an LLC or going through what they consider those legal loops. Yeah, as a sole proprietor, may not, unless it's registered, may not qualify for anything. So I think there's some inconsistency or some misunderstanding of terms or terminologies that we use to one, create a program, two, to sell a program, but the implementation of it gets a little bit fuzzy because the big guys were early to the trough, and then eventually they said, whoa, and they were cutting off applications to the program. So I'm hoping that, and I know this is looking for the most part at small businesses, and I think for Small Business Administration, it's a different criteria than when we talk societally about small businesses.
That's true. Because
if I may go back to something you were talking about your frat brother, and real estate. I did some research a couple weeks ago, and it was talking about the housing market forecast and how hard it will be. And they're looking at 2021, and it says that
21 or 22.
We're talking 21. This fiscal year.
Okay.
It said existing home sales are up 9%. Newly built home sales are up 21%. Housing prices are up 8%. And mortgage rates are at a 30-year fix will be around 3%. And regardless of what they are now, they're looking at it staying somewhere in the 3% range through the end of the year. So with a low mortgage, you can get a $500,000 mortgage. You can get a $500,000 house and pay less than $1,500 just in mortgage. Now, I'm not talking about that's principal and interest. I'm not talking about insurance and taxes. I mean, that's, Leland, that's crazy. I don't know whether you remember me saying that when I bought my first house back in '83, my mortgage rate was 13.25%.
Right.
I mean, and I'm going like 3% now. I'm going like, please, where do I sign?
The issue with that is there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have debt service issues, though.
Correct.
It's just going to be, and I don't think people have done the arithmetic for that, but there's going to be a lot of issues with debt service. Period.
Well, I think just because you can get in it doesn't mean that you can afford it or you should do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I think a lot of people don't really do the analysis, create a budget and look at and then create some set aside to say, okay, I can do this. This will be fine. I can do this. Because if you've got a job, you're doing it in one sense, looking back, trying to anticipate what's going to happen to your industry.
That's true. And so that's the thing. Like even with this whole thing with the SBA. Mm-hmm. And I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that the SBA actually approves the EIDL loan, and that the individual banks actually approve the Paycheck Protection Program loan. And what's interesting is so basically, let's not throw away this. What's happening in the economy is that money, the fiat currency, is becoming easier to obtain.
Correct. Because there's so much of it.
Because there's so much of it.
If think about it. I think I heard or read someplace that the richest man in the world is worth like $180-some billion. Now, he doesn't have $180-some billion sitting in somebody's bank.
Correct.
That money is out here in the economy, creating greater wealth for him let's see, because he's got so much money, for the banks or someone to use his money, they're paying him 6, 7, 8, 10, 12%, or maybe higher.
Maybe
you put your money in the bank and you will get maybe 1/2 of 1%.
Correct.
So you're technically paying the bank
to hold it,
to hold my money.
Yeah, for the most part.
So when we look at the ebbs and flows of the economy, sometimes it's confusing, because what you think you know is one thing, but then you read something that goes counter to what it is that you thought you knew.
Right. And what, like, a lot of times what's counter, or what would it seem counter at least, is
Yeah,
when
well, yeah, you know.
when they mention small businesses, you do think of the hair salon, or the local deli.
Oh yes, a local restaurant. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
but by their definition, small business just means anyone that has less than 500 employees.
And to me, 500 employees is big business. You big time.
well,
You
well,
bringing in
that's
a couple. You bringing in a couple million a year. A few million a year and stuff.
no. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they consider to be the threshold, though. So if you have 480 employees,
Mhm.
and those 480 employees, let's say they're netting 100 million, right?
Yeah.
Well, by the size, it's considered a small business. That's a small business. And
I
so,
know. Well, see, I correlate that to the terminology middle class.
true. Yeah.
Where does middle class, and then it's upper middle class, and I'm going like, okay, and then it's something entirely different, and then all of a sudden it gets to the point where there are so many zeros that it doesn't even make any sense. So I mean it. I, here's what I'm wrestling with, Marcus. I mean, Mark. See, Leland, I apologize.
You're fine.
It is, here we are, reasonably astute, having this discussion about small business or business in general, and the ebbs and flows, and we are sort of calling this our wheel well, our sweet spot, and we are researching and monitoring this almost daily, if not at least weekly.
Hmm.
What about the people that we know who are sitting on the sidelines waiting for someone to tell them something? Because if you're not doing research, you don't realize that as a small business owner, you may qualify for $500,000. You may not know that the federal government has set aside billions of dollars for SBA. You don't realize that you have multiple months to repay. You don't realize that it's a low interest rate. So if you were a physician in private practice, or an attorney in private practice, or you had a small repair shop for automobiles or something, if you don't know these programs exist, you won't know if somebody doesn't come and knock on your door and tell you that these exist.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you're not really going to see it in the local paper. You're not going to see it on the local TV station. You have to be deliberately researching and looking for opportunity
Correct.
or possibilities.
Whereas if you're also that individual, that business owner, and you're working, you have your nose to the grindstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not paying attention.
Well, you can't, because you're chasing the dollar. You're juggling everyday circumstances, and you can't afford to hire talent, or you're too stingy to hire talent to allow yourself to grow. It's the same. If you're a restaurant, it's the same little recipe. I mean, menu you've had for the last 30 years. You haven't modernized anything or what have you. So you are a business, you're in business, but you're not really a business owner.
Right. Yep.
You know, and which is sad. But if you tell them that you're not really a business owner, you'd have to fight them.
If I can be honest, Hank, and I know we're kind of going a little off the beaten trail, but if I can be honest,
yes, sir.
A lot of people that are in that category, they're the ones who didn't qualify.
That's true. So then, what's the fix?
And it's sad. It's really sad. So,
we know a fix.
If I can be honest, it's too late to fix.
But is it?
Yes.
If they haven't taken the steps to do the legal paperwork to get an LLC or what have you, to insulate themselves from all of the tax implications and the potential lawsuits and yada yada yada, is it really too late for them?
Okay, you're right. It's never too late.
Okay,
it's never too late. But I do want to say that
the mindset.
Yeah, mindset's important. But early on, when these programs were in their infancy stage per se, they were allowing just about any Tom, Dick, or Harry
to qualify.
Yeah, seriously. And then for some reason, whoever's in charge of whatever, those individuals said, "Hey, let's add all of these stipulations." And some of those stipulations ran into not just like, "Hey, does so and so have an LLC?" but how is so and so's LLC taxed? Are they taxed in the F corp? You know, did they pay themselves a salary? Then it became all those different things, right? And I believe that when all those stipulations came in, probably the business owners that truly needed the assistance never got it.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I agree. But I see an opportunity. I see an opportunity of making people aware that help is on the way. I think I heard that in a presidential debate or something. Help is on the way. Here it is. So then how do we let the masses know, or the small business owners know, that this program, this enhanced program, is available for them?
Right.
Because if they don't take advantage, if they don't participate rather than take advantage, if they don't participate, they are still mentally stuck in the pandemic phase when everybody else is looking post-pandemic. Because they won't be able to go they don't have an avenue to get the resources that they need, because they don't have anyone to help them to go through the SBA funnel, so to speak. You know, they'll go out and they will operate sort of like a payday loan entity, where they are paying exorbitant interest rates for little or no money.
Right. Right. And then it's one of those things, you know. Yeah, because those are still out there. I haven't seen one payday loan place go out of business.
Well, you were saying earlier about PPP, and you know that the banks. Well, I was notified by my bank that I qualified, and I was also notified by my CPA that I qualified. And I looked at everything, and I decided not to apply for PPP. And there was, in my mind, there was no need for me to participate in a program where, though I would benefit, there was no real need I didn't need it.
Right.
So I said I would just leave it for someone else who was in a different situation than I'm in. You know, I work from home.
He had that luxury.
Praise God.
Praise God. Seriously.
You know, praise God. You know, my living expenses, business expenses are living expenses. Now, had I had a standalone business, I mean, building somewhere, office somewhere,
Yeah.
that would have been a different situation. You know, if I'd had a secretary, I would imagine that a lot of those people are staying up at night, or they've waited so late that now they'll take almost any deal that's put before them.
It's sad, yeah.
Or they will trust unscrupulous people without doing due diligence and get stuck with something. Now you're litigating, and when there's no real need to do that.
It's, I mean, yeah, I mean, everything you're mentioning is correct. I just, I think for a long time, so, you know, just because we're talking about the pandemic, we're talking about brick and mortar. I think for a long time, we all knew the importance of technology, and we all agreed that at some point technology was going to replace all these different types of opportunities, jobs.
I think we may have thought it, but we didn't realize how imminent and prominent it was going to be.
But the thing is, if it wasn't for the pandemic, it wouldn't have been at a speed point. It would have been a slow phase out, you know, and people could have said, "Oh man," you know. But with the pandemic, a lot of things were literally just put on an immediate close.
You had to adapt, and you had to be creative, all overnight.
Overnight, and now, you know, when we think about just expanding a business, you really think to yourself like, there's no need for an office in Cincinnati. Why have an office in Cincinnati when you can just have the person who lives in Cincinnati hop on a webcam?
I have a friend in Minneapolis, and his wife is a PhD pharmacist, works for one of the pharmaceutical companies. And because of the pandemic, the company realizes that they don't need to have large brick and mortar edifices, that they don't need as many people as they thought they needed. So the pandemic has caused people to be very resourceful and efficient and innovative, and to use technology to the max. Prior to the pandemic, I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with Zoom. And prior to today, I didn't know anything about
Restream.
Yeah, Restream Studio.
Yep.
And actually, as I look at it, I like it better than Zoom. Well, you know, truth be told.
Yeah.
You know, but again, I think as a business owner, and you know, people, you know, small business and what have you, you have to have I said mindset earlier. You have to change your mindset to be innovative, resourceful. You have to become more of a risk taker.
Yeah.
To be flexible, try something. You don't have to stick with it because you made it. Let me back up. I think a lot of small business owners make a decision. They made a decision 5 years ago that this is how I'm going to run things. Okay, whatever that business plan is, that strategy, and haven't modified anything about their day-to-day operations.
They're not, yeah, not being agile will kill you.
But because there's so many demands on a small business owner who's got employees, if you don't hire the right skill set, if you don't have it, you have to hire it. And if you can't afford to hire it, you're still at a marked disadvantage. So we have to be willing to surround ourselves with people that are smarter than we are, and pay them to drive the car.
That's intimidating for some people. Most, and I'm just speaking based on what I've been told from other small business owners, that a lot of people,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
a lot of people who are small business owners, they've told me that one of the main reasons that they're a small business owner is because they wanted control. Basically, they wanted control.
But Leland, you know, and I know that control is a very broad. I mean, it's a very broad statement. Again, it's if people are intimidated by your level of expertise, they won't make decisions that are necessary for the growth of the company, for fear that you will come in, learn how they do things, and become their competitor next week. Now, there are ways to insulate yourself from that type of malfeasance or unethical business behavior.
Right.
Okay. But they don't think about it, because many of them, they've got their cousins, their kids, their best friends, all of these people that they think they trust doing their bidding. But I learned a long time ago that when it comes to money, trust no one, not even your mother. Okay. I think it was, I forget whether it was Charlie Tremendous Jones or Maxwell, one of those learned guys. And he said, it's okay to put all your eggs in one basket, but if you do, watch the basket. So we have to be trustful in some things that we're doing. And I think if small businesses are made aware that there is a pot of money available for them to go to do some things, it takes less than a week to get your LLC.
Right.
It takes less than a week to get your business in order to participate in these programs that are available.
It does.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a crazy process. It really doesn't.
And it's not that expensive. Now, there are things that you can do with an attorney, but they're going to, depending on the attorney, they'll charge you up from from $275 an hour to up. and they will charge you, for 6 hours of work that, it's takes 10 minutes. Yeah. But that's the game. I mean, that's the field we play on, because we don't know any better. Okay.
Yeah. And there are resources out there, to help people, but people, you have to take initiative. You have to take those correct steps and actions. Even with like we're saying with the Small Business Administration, there are SBA offices. Right, we talked about SCORE before. There are SBA offices that are available throughout the United States. Now, it may not be in every single city or every single town, but they are. I believe there's at least one per state. And if you can't visit, right, because of the pandemic, you can always call or email. So just steps.
again, you can Zoom, you can go on their website and fill out an application. There are no more excuses for failure.
Not with technology. Those
That's
are done.
absolutely correct.
Yeah, those are done.
Or, well,
Should be gone.
I'm sorry. A little bit. Look, just this. I might know how to do certain things, but I don't understand technology. My 25-year-old has to help me to understand technology. So I'm sitting here going like, oh, I'm intimidated as all get up about technology. So so you just sort of kind of like throw it out there like, okay, fine, that's your, hey, you good at that. Okay, that's cool. I'm laughing at myself, sir. I apologize.
You're fine. You're fine. But as we wrap up, we want to let everyone know that if you truly do need additional assistance via a loan, you can definitely reach out to the SBA. You can actually go to the SBA.gov, their exact website, to actually get started. If you need help from there, you can still go to your local SCORE agency, and I think the website is really just SCORE, SCORE.org. You can reach out to a small business administrator advisor, right? And for some reason, if someone is having trouble doing something like setting up an LLC or putting together maybe, or you don't know how to do an EIN number or all that stuff, you can go to the website that we have at the very bottom. That will help you walk you through it. If someone is wondering on what to do post-corona or post-pandemic, we also have a training for that as well. All right, Hank, anything you want to add before we conclude?
No, I'm excited about the possibilities that present themselves every day, and I can say that there are no more excuses for failure.
Yeah.
There are just too many opportunities, and people aren't going to give you anything. But if there's something you really, really want, there's a way for you to get there. And I'll say this, Leland, if you still are uncertain about where you should go, I would just encourage you to check out that website that's presented under on the screen, and we can help you. That's all I can say is we can help you. It's your choice.
Your choice. Your choice.
It is. It's your. And again, it's your. And here's it. And my dad says, whether you do or do not is a decision.
Right. Thank you all for your time. We hope